Chicago experienced many changes in its day and age. A major event that affected rights and responsibilities was Prohibition. The Prohibition began in the 1920s and severely impacted people in that time period. Consumer rights were stripped away, and the government reasoned with the responsibilities to protect citizens by banning the distribution and intaking of alcohol. The Prohibition was a decade long and banned alcohol from the public. Now this was done by enacting the 18th Amendment of the Constitution. The 18th Amendment stated that the prohibition of alcohol in the United States by having the production, consumption, and sales of alcohol become illegal. Many were affected in this action, such as sellers and owners of businesses from bars. Because no one was allowed to drink alcohol, it wasn't being sold either. This gave business owners no money to thrive upon. This, then, was an economic downfall for sellers in that category. Thousands of jobs were eliminated until speakeasies were developed. What are speakeasies, you ask? Speakeasies were secret places where alcohol was sold. Imagine a speakeasy as a great big party in which there was booze, dancing, and fun all night, and outlawed the Prohibition. Speakeasies had been held in underground places so they weren't found by the government. Speakeasies could give the public its consumer rights back, and as a result, less riots took place. Most speakeasies were deceptively built underground, so no one except the public could find them. Speakeasies allowed alcohol sellers to regain their profits. Many can still be found today throughout Chicago, although most became actual bars, tourist sites, or entertaining restaurants that explain the history of Chicago. Others that had purchased illegal alcohol, many died. Others had purchased illegal alcohol. This was dangerous because many of the people that bought the alcohol died from tainted liquor. Around 1,000 people died each year. Temperance movements were also taking place to assure that alcohol was banned. Temperance movement groups that were known were the Women's Christian Temperance Union. This union was formed by a group of women that had been around for over a decade. The movement of the WCTM had much success, and they had banned the distribution and consumption of alcohol already in 25 states. Other known temperance groups were the Carrie Nation Prohibition Party and the suffragettes. As view of the government suppressing the distribution and consumption of alcohol, many lives were affected for the better or for the worse. In a lighter retrospect, people were safer on the streets while sober, and made sure it was safer for others because they were sober. Conditions might have been cheery and joyful, but were people really safe? People hadn't been entirely safe due to the fact riots and strikings were breaking out. These strikes had been violent at times, to the point of injury. Some riots had been so bad they broke out and law force tried to contain them, but still could not. This showed how little the government had control of its citizens. Al Capone also led to the criminal and gang activity while the Prohibition took place to lash out for the laws against alcohol. Although Capone was in the business of easily obtaining alcohol, he chose to lash out at the supposed responsibility of the government's actions. Capone also took charge in the speakeasy business, trying to convince managers of speakeasies to buy alcohol from his boss. This led to the branching out upon speakeasies and eventually a rise in underground business production. The crime rate in Chicago had been an all-time high. This had robberies, violence, theft, and so on to be more frequent. Authorities had to be enforced more and more. As President Roosevelt was voted as president, he ended the Prohibition. 14 years had passed and rejoice came. as the Prohibition had been impeached by the 21st Amendment and alcohol was welcomed back to the public. Crime rates declined and bars opened again. Although temperance movements weren't very happy, the public was again at peace. Time seemed to fly by within the Prohibition, since it had been about 14 years and the outlaw against alcohol had been so prolonged. A decade was significant to Chicagoans. It showed the strive and motivations to preserve the public's consumer rights. Sir, Mister, what's your name?
Oh, my name? My name's Walter Bishop.
Oh, nice to meet you, Walter. Now, what do you think of when you hear the word Prohibition?
I think about Al Capone, no drinking, crime.
Very good. Well, a lot of things happened during the Prohibition, and we'll have to do some exploring and go back into history to find out. Wish us luck. See you soon, Walter.
Bye. Hello, miss. Nice to see you again. Did you learn anything about Prohibition?
Tons! Did you know that the 18th Amendment was the law that made production, sales, and consumption of alcohol illegal?
What?
Yes! The public was so angered they decided to have riots in the city, and eventually, bar owners decided to create speakeasies. Speakeasies were hideouts underground so the public could not intake alcohol with the government knowing. The people that weren't angered by the Prohibition were temperance movements that denied alcohol and had strikes against it. One temperance group banned it from 25 states.
Really? Was there any criminal activity taking place?
Indeed. Al Capone had started much trouble and the crime rate rose significantly, not forgetting to mention all the gang activity.
When did this prohibition end?
It ended in 1933, 14 years after it had begun.
Wow! Thank you for helping me learn so much about our history.
Anytime! Goodbye!
Bye!